Hi everyone, I just wanted to welcome you all here today. I'm Tanya Summerton, the Divorce Angel, and today we've got a very, very special guest, and that is Jessica Cleary, and she's a child or general psychologist. Welcome, Jessica.
Thanks for having me, Tanya. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. So can you explain to my audience why it is that you decided to become a general psychologist?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I think that I've always really loved working with kids. I've always, since I was very young, I was always babysitting the kids that lived in my street. I had younger siblings. I always felt a connection to children, and that just kind of evolved. I wanted to help children understand their emotions, understand their feelings, and thrive, and do well at school, do well with their friendships. And so that led me to pursue studies in psychology. And then fast forward, a few years, I opened up my own child psychology practice.
Yeah, it's interesting because you and I met because when I was writing my book, we have a mutual friend, and I'd said to her, when it comes to this sort of specialist area, who would you recommend is one of the best in Australia? And she recommended you, and that's how we've become working together. And it's just amazing what a small world it is.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible, isn't it? It's
Yeah, that's great. So tell us about your business. It's got the best name, Hopscotch and Harmony. I think it's just the best name.
Thank you. Yeah. We started 4 years ago. I used to work as a school psychologist in the schools, and I live in the west of Melbourne, the western suburbs, and I really noticed that there was very limited amount of services outside of the school for more a deeper level of support for families, deeper level of therapy options for children. And so that's when, and I had my own children myself. I had young children, and I thought, well, I'm just going to do it. And I did, jumped in and opened up a practice in Point Cook. And I started seeing children. So initially I was just working with kids. But what I found out very quickly is that seeing the children wasn't enough. What I needed to be doing was working with the parents. So really over these last 4 years, and as a mum myself, I realized that a lot of what was going on for my kids really was about me and how I felt about that, how I responded to what was going on. And my reactions actually very much helped or hindered what was happening.
Like as a mother myself, and I sit back now and look over the journey as my kids have grown up, and there's things that they do or say that I can see that somehow that I've either instilled it in them or they've learnt it from me. It's a reaction to something that I've done. And we don't realise that, do we? And as I say, when you have a child, you aren't given a book of how to actually deal with them and what to say. And
not at all. Not at all. No.
How easy would that be if that's what happened? They all come with different instructions on how to control them.
But I heard someone say, and it's so right, that they are the instruction manual. You have to learn how to read your edition.
So the other way around. That's a really interesting way of thinking about it.
Learning about your child and learning about who they are and what they need. Everyone's, all children are different, and what works for one is different to what another child might need. So it's about being in tune to that. And as my practice grew, I was able to build our team of psychologists. So we have about 10 or 11 psychologists now, and we work with very young children all the way through adolescence and to youth and to adults as well. And so because I've got this wonderful team that really works across that age, all the age range, I'm now really focusing on supporting parents, because that's really what I just believe in it so much. If we can learn certain ways to connect with our kids, and if we can understand our feelings and our emotions and learn about child development and what they're going through, then we're much better equipped to deal with anything that our kids kids bring to the table and help them.
So in this area that we're working together, and this divorce sort of, relationship, sorry, it's saying my internet is unstable, which is bizarre. Anyway, is there a certain age where it can have a greater detrimental effect on a child's ability to grow or how they behave than another age? So I suppose, is it better off, because you hear in a lot of cases that parents say, I'm staying for the children. They're in a loveless marriage and they're there because they think they're doing the right thing by being together for the kids. So I suppose there's two parts to that question. Is that true and correct? And is there a certain age where, you can do more harm to your kids by actually staying?
I think that we have to be careful when we talk about these things, because children need parents that are emotionally well. They need parents that are role models and enjoying their life, making decisions, even difficult decisions as well. That as long as that child feels supported, as long as that child can be guided through whatever emotions a divorce or separation might bring up, then I think that is the most important thing, regardless of the age, whether the child is 18 months, 7 or 14. If that parent can be tuned into what the child is experiencing and be able to answer their questions in an age-appropriate way, be able to emotionally support them, then let's not think about the age, and let's not worry about that so much. You really need to do the thing that's right for you. Everyone's marriage and circumstances around divorce is different. So you really need to look at your own well-being and the well-being of your children. If you're unhappy, then your children feel that as well. So the best thing that you can do is live your best life. And that might mean staying or it might mean going. But that's a very individual thing. And I think it's very difficult to talk about ages.
That's a very valid point, because I think you hit the nail on the head. If the parents aren't happy, then their children are learning from that anyway, aren't they? And if you can, I suppose you have to be a very good actor to be able to say in a marriage that is loveless, or that there's issues, or there's whether it be confrontations, or it's just an environment. I know with myself that when I walked into a room, it felt like there was just like the animosity in the room just sort of seemed to just encompass you. And I was worried that my kids would feel that as well. Yeah. And I in the end decided when my children were sort of in their late teens to leave.
Yes.
But up until that stage, that I hoped that we'd given them a really good life and whatever. But it's hard.
You make the decision that you can at the time with the information you've got. You can't look back and say, oh, I wish I had done it differently, or I regret this, I regret that. You just can't do that to yourself. You doing the best with the information you have, right? This is not easy. People don't go into this lightly. For sure.
No, well, we don't get married thinking that one day it's going to end, do we?
No, absolutely not. And look, we're not saying that you're not going to try, at the first hint of unhappiness. No, it's normal for there to be ups and downs in any relationship. And it's normal for kids to see that life is not, peachy all the time. And sometimes things are hard. And this is what we're going to try and do to overcome this challenge. But there does come a point where someone in the relationship, or both of you, will decide that it's actually not sustainable and it's going to be more harmful to stay than it would be to leave.
Yeah. So what are some of the reactions that we could be seeing in our children that we need to be really mindful of, that are telling us that they're not happy? And
you're going to see different behaviours. Sometimes we might think, okay, this is what I expect. I expect my child will be sad. I'll expect my child will be X, Y, Z. And sometimes you'll be right. Sometimes their behaviour will match with your expectation, but sometimes it won't. And you have to be careful not to be too attached to that expectation that you have, because I know women, they think about, okay, I think about the conversation, I'm going to plan what's going to be said, and this might happen, and that, we worry about these kind of things and we try and plan for it. but we can't attach ourselves too much, because then we just have to accept what comes, accept what that reaction is. And yes, it could be sadness, it could be anger, there could be worries, which could lead to a bit of separation anxiety, clinginess if the child is young. It could be, a fear of abandonment. It could be a decline in school performance. It could be, if it's a toddler, some regression in some of their developmental milestones. A toilet-trained child might start bedwetting or wetting during the day a little bit more. Changes in behaviour. A lot of these things could be stirred up, and you could see. So there's not one.
And what if one of those was actually occurring, as a parent, what should we be doing to try and address those things? So I suppose firstly we've got to highlight that there's a problem, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. And I think the question to ask yourself first is, can I be spending a little bit more one-on-one time with my child? In the busyness of life, and especially it's such an emotionally fueled time when there's a lot of decisions to be made and a lot of emotions stirred up in you as the parent, we need to really ground ourselves and think, okay, am I still connecting with my child here? So the number one thing would be try and increase that one-on-one time, that special undivided attention. And it might be 10 minutes. I'm not saying hours or a day. It might just be 10 minutes of that. Devices are turned off. You're not going to quickly put a load of washing on. It's here I am. Let's have some time together.
100% attention.
Exactly. 100% of attention, just to create a space so that the child might be able to give you something about their feeling or their experience, give you an opportunity to talk about what's going on for them.
Yeah, good stuff. That's great stuff. So are there any other ways you could suggest that we could support our kids other than the one-on-one? Is there other things that we could be doing?
We have to make sure that they're feeling emotionally okay, that we're protecting them, because if there's been, quite clearly, often there's a lot of anger and resentment going around during times of divorce. And as hard as it is, it's really important to keep that away from your children. It's just so important to protect them from that emotional negativity, because especially young children under age of 8 or so, if they're sensing anger and there's problems, they think it's because of them.
Yeah.
They say, I've done something, I'm the cause of this. So as much as possible, you want to keep your anger and resentment away, whether it's being able to vent to a girlfriend, whether it's to find a therapist for yourself, someone to talk to process those feelings and to get them out, so they're less likely to spill over when you're having, time with your kids. That's going to be the number one important thing. Of course, also respecting their relationship with the other parent, even though, your relationship with that parent has changed. Still so important to nurture the relationship that your child has with your ex.
If say for instance we're in the process of starting at the start of this divorce journey, and we've had the conversation with our partner, and we've decided that the marriage is now going to be dissolved, how would you recommend we have that conversation with our children? Is that something, that we do jointly? Are we open and honest with them? Is there certain key words that we say and we reiterate to them? What is it that we should be doing?
Okay, so the most important thing, first of all, is to be certain with what is going to happen next. Okay, so you're not going to have a discussion with the kids when you're still not really sure about what's going to happen. Is it going to go ahead? Is it not? Because this is stressful for kids. That uncertainty is going to fuel their anxiety. So it's really important that you've had some decisions made already before you let your kids know about what's going to happen next, because they need to be assured that they are secure, even if there's going to be a change. But it's okay, but let them know for sure what's going to happen next as much as possible. Now, of course, this is going to depend on the relationship and your partner, your ex as well. But as much as possible, if you can do it together, then that is ideal.
Yeah.
Ideally, we already have discussed it together, and to come as a united front for the sake of the children. You know, it's not about you or him, it's about what is going to help the child most. And if you can do it together, then that is recommended. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you want to be talking about that, you know, any of the conversation, that it's not the child's fault, that mummy loves you, daddy loves you, we love you. But sometimes, you know, you might have noticed there's been a lot of fighting recently. You might have noticed mummy's been quite unhappy. And again, this is depending on the age of the child. You know, teens are going to be more in tuned to this. They're going to know, right? And younger children to a lesser extent, but they'll still maybe have a bit of an inkling, perhaps, maybe. But being honest, letting them know that sometimes, you know, we've been fighting a lot, and we're not so happy living together anymore. So mummy is going to live in a different house, or daddy's going to live in a different house. We love you so much. We both love you so much. Let them know, you know, we love you, and it's not about you at all. It's just that we think we're going to be a better family if mummy and daddy live in separate houses.
Is it important to say that, like, we are still going to be a family, but we're going to live in two separate houses, and we're reiterating to them that, you know, we're still one. We're just going to do it differently.
I think so. I think so. You want to make sure that the child feels they've still got their mum, they've still got their dad, that the love is still there. It's just going to look a bit different now. And it's going to take it's going to take a bit for us all to get used to it. It's going to be different, but we think that we can be happier this way.
And is there something, so before we've got to that stage, and you know, obviously, as you said, we're 100% certain that the relationship is over. Yes. The conversation that we have with our partners about what's best for the children, because obviously at this sort of stage, there's a lot of animosity, and, you know, one parent thinks that they're a better parent, and that often we see that all the time. One says, no, I need to have the children more often because I'm the better parent, or because I show different sorts of love, or whatever. If we are going to have some sort of agreement before we talk to the children, is it important to actually have all of that set in stone before that we have that conversation, or we just work it out, and in those initial few days or months we just go with the flow, and we find where the water sort of settles, you know?
Yeah. So we want to keep the children's routine as constant as possible. So if they still go to swimming lessons on a Wednesday night, that's still going to happen. They still go to, you know, gymnastics on a Friday night, that's still happening. So we want to keep their routine as consistent as possible. You know, it can be challenging for parents to agree on these things together. It can take a long time for this agreement to happen. So, you know, we might be expecting too much of parents to be united on this before children are involved. In an ideal world, but let's say this is not an ideal time, right? So it's a very challenging time. If we can get the parents to agree on what that's going to be, then, well, that's fabulous. Let's then tell the kids what the plan is. But reality is sometimes the divorce happens and the separation happens, and this hasn't been finalised yet, and it's going to take, you know, a lot of time for things to really work out where we're going to be living permanently, what's going on. So, you know, again, as long as the child is going to school, as much as that normalness in their life is still there, then I think that is very important. And kids are resilient. Kids are more resilient than we think. As long as they've got as long as they're assured that they're loved, as long as they feel heard, you know, and they're not exposed to these adult themed conversations about finances, about where we're going to live, you know, that is not for the children to be hearing. They just want to know that they're loved, they're safe, and that, you know, that they've still got their school and they've still got their friends. So that's the constant message for them.
What advice would you give to, say, let's paint a scenario here. So say I'm a female, and the relationship certainly is rocky and it's going to end, and you've got some children, and you know that your partner is already trying to poison the kids by saying, you know, things that aren't nice about you, whether it be, you know, oh, I work so hard, it's my money, your mother sits around and does nothing, and they're trying to set the scene to poison the children. What do you say to someone in that case? So what does the mother say to the children, or, you know, what should she be doing if this is the situation she finds herself in?
Okay. So this happens a lot, you know. We see parents quite often that are in this situation and they're really, really upset about what happens on those access visits, you know, what is said. I think that it's really important to, again, going back to creating a space for you and your child. So if it's after, you know, a weekend with the other parent, is to set aside some time to kind of just to be there, emotionally available, to see what they say and to see what they bring. It's really you've got to be really careful not to ask leading questions, you know, not to assume that this has happened and not to put words in your children's mouths. You want to just let them, because it might have gone over their heads as well.
Yeah.
What the parent is trying to do. And we've got to be careful that we're not not kind of anticipating this is going to happen and we're trying to, you know, overcompensate or you know, talk to our kids about it. That might be overwhelming. They might not know what you're talking about. So give them the space for them to share with you. And if you can do that and validate their experience, so they might say, oh, you know, this happened and I'm a bit confused, or some of their behaviour might indicate they might be angry or worried. You know, that's an opportunity for you to start a conversation, and it might start by saying, I know this divorce is really hard for you. I know this is really challenging for you. You seem really upset. Is there anything that you want to tell me about what's going on? So those open questions, and really see what comes back.
So ultimately, from what what I was going to say is, ultimately what you're trying to do is make sure that there's always an open line of communication, that they feel that at any time they can talk to you about anything. Yes,
because you know what? There are going to be some things, Tanya, that you can't control. You can't control as much as you want to. You can't control what that other parent is saying to your kids. What you can be in control of is being that parent who is open to hearing and noticing your child's feelings and behaviour and supporting them through it, because I mean, in time they will feel that connection with you, and it's hard not to worry about what's going on. It's really challenging when that stuff is happening. But that number one thing you can do is just validate your children's emotions and their experience. Be there to support them and to assure them how much you love them, and you know, show them that. And then if you can build that connection with you and your child, and if that is very strong by the things that you're doing, that you're in control of, then it's going to be very difficult for someone else to affect that relationship.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I suppose the next thing, other than that I suppose is always the elephant in the room, is introducing the children to the new partner. Which becomes just something else that is always, if you know, if I'm dealing with one of the people within the relationship, it's always, oh, you know, he's doing this or she's doing that, and you know, the kids aren't ready for it, and you know, what do I do? What do I say? How do I react?
Yes.
You know, is there a timeline when it comes to that, or is there a rule of thumb that if a couple who have separated and they do have a new partner, is there a rule of thumb that is best for the children in protecting them in this scenario?
I think that honesty is going to be very important here, and respecting that the children deserve the honesty. Sometimes we don't tell them things to protect them, but children are smart and children can sense what's going on, and they also know when they're not being told the full story. So I would think that if there was another relationship starting, then let's talk about it. It's okay. You know, it might be earlier than we thought, but also if that's what the reality of what's going on, then I think that that's okay. I mean, again, it depends on the age, you know, especially the older children. They deserve that. They deserve that respect. They deserve that to be told and to be kept into the loop of what's happening, because they're going to be wondering, they're going to be thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Wondering, well, what's next? What's Dad going to do here? And what's going to happen? So as things come up, talk to them about it. And if you're the mum and the father's got a girlfriend, then, you can say that, look, this is new for me too. I'm getting all kinds of confused feelings about this, and that's okay. And you probably are too. But I'm here, we can talk about it.
Yeah, and we can go through, that's great, because I like the way that you're actually telling the child then that let's go through this together. Let's help each other get through this. Because, well, that's the thing. If you put yourself in the child's situation, the child is thinking, obviously, because who knows, they might think that one day the mother and the father are going to get back together. Once they realise that one of the partners has found someone else, that reality or dream that they had is never, ever going to happen. So it's not going to become reality. So,
you might see behaviour change then as well. You might see the children be more sad and upset, because even though the parents have known that it's over, for the child, there might still be that glimmer of hope, that magical, that actually it's going to come back. So when things change like this, then there's definitely the chance that the children's behaviour might change. And even as a child gets older and their brain develops, they're going to reprocess a separation in a more an advanced way than they did when they were 3. So if it happened when they were 3, when the child is 10, they might grieve. They might grieve again, because now they can think about what this means at a different level that they couldn't when they were little. So for children, grieving can happen again and again.
So yeah, because the kids are actually grieving the loss of the family as they know it, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And at school functions where there's if they go to their friend's house and there's a happy family, that might trigger sadness. Of course, it could. Yeah.
Oh, great stuff.
Yeah, and also for the young children as well, they don't have the life experience. They don't know what is a normal family. So they're more likely as well to take things in the stride.
Right.
To accept it. And there's a new girlfriend. We're worried about, how are we going to introduce? But, the 4-year-old's like, okay, whatever. Yep.
Yeah, they've only been on Earth for 4 years. To them, they don't know what's normal and what's not normal. And I suppose, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's actually the parent that's actually mirroring their feelings onto the child. So they're the one that feels, oh my goodness, what's happening? And they're trying to use the child as a pawn to say, no, this isn't okay, when in a lot of cases it's actually them that feels like that.
And that's why with the leading statement, so be careful not to say, this must be so very sad for you with mummy and daddy. Don't say that. Wait. Because that might not be the experience at that moment for your child. So refrain from telling them what you think that they're thinking, and wait for them to come to you and to share their experience and meet them where they're at. If we have our expectations on the way we think that they should be feeling and behaving, then we could miss the mark, and it can cause more confusion for kids.
And when you're talking to your child in this situation, do you still talk like your father and I, or your dad and I, or do you just say me? How do you talk to them once this has all happened?
Yeah, well, it's still your dad. So still, use the same that same language. It's still your daddy. If the child says daddy, then you can call him daddy as well. I mean, that's comforting for the child. Yeah, but again, it has to be what you're comfortable with too. That's really important as well. Yeah.
Oh, well, this has been really great. So tell us about what other things you're doing, because from our conversations, you're also putting together some other educational information to help people out there. So what's that all about?
So I have just started a brand new project for me, which is called the Calmer Parent Revolution. So the Calmer Parent Revolution is just what it sounds like. I work with parents all the time, and I know that the biggest difficulty that we have is being able to respond to what's going on around us, to keep our calm amongst the chaos of life, the chaos of family life. And I also know that there are things that we can do that can help ourselves no matter what's going on. So whether we are in a messy divorce, whether we do have children with additional needs, whether, children that are typically functioning, life is very stressful, and we can have a lot of different emotions. But there are things that we can do to feel calmer. And if we can find that calm, then we're more likely to respond in a more compassionate way, and probably a way that we're going to be prouder of
Yeah.
when we look back at our responses to certain difficult events. So yeah, so that's on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page just in my name, Jessica Cleary. And yeah, the Calmer Parent Revolution I'm starting, and there's going to be more information about that later this year.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. That sounds wonderful. And I think what I love so much about what you do is not only are you helping the parents, because just no different to the business that we're, you know, the business model that we have here is that it's all about support. And while you're dealing with the emotional side of what's going on, we'll handle everything else for you. So, you know, with the clients at the moment that have children, obviously we're referring them to you, and you're helping them deal with that day-to-day struggle so that everything just doesn't bog them down. You know, there's just so much to be careful of, isn't there? Mindful of.
Absolutely. There's so much going on, and that's what I love about your business, Tanya, is that you're taking that pressure off them, because you don't know what you don't know, and coming to someone like you that has done all the research and has put everything together and can be that person that goes, you know what, this is what you need, or have you considered this? This is something that's been helpful to others, and it just takes that pressure right off straight away. So it's it's a fabulous model there.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, because what happens is when I'm talking to clients, they don't even think to speak to someone such as yourself. They think that, yeah, I know we'll be right and whatever. And in a lot of cases, you get one chance at this. You've got to get it right. You've got to make sure you talk to the children and your partner in the best way possible to try and prevent as much animosity so you have an amicable relationship moving forward. That's what's so key.
It is key. It's key. But also, it's never too late as well. It's never too late. So we've got to be careful to be kind to ourselves on maybe mistakes we've made with this, or we can acknowledge, you know what, I didn't handle it the best way. Or I didn't know what to do, so I just did it the best way. And maybe now you think, oh, gosh, I should have done it differently.
Yes.
It's not too late to start now.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So what I actually wanted to also tell our audience about you, because you did touch on it earlier, your business is over in the western suburbs of Victoria. But for those clients of ours that are in any other part of Australia, so if you can't get in to see Jessica also does Skype and Zoom, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't even need to leave your house, and Jessica and her team can help with any of the problems or issues that you have dealing with not only how to handle your children, but also maybe some of how the kids are behaving, and if you just need some help or some security on knowing what you're doing is right. Yeah. So yeah, that's great. Yeah. So tell us about the rest of your team. So have you got specialists in certain areas?
We do. We have psychologists that tend to have more experience with the younger children. So we have an early intervention team. So they're the clinicians that really work with the under sevens. So helping teach skills to children that might be lacking or not have well-developed social skills, or, they have big explosive feelings, have troubles regulating their feelings, which a lot of young people have, and working with parents to help that come together. We also have psychologists that work with school-aged kids, primary school and teenagers. So we're looking at, anxiety, we're looking at friendship difficulties. Into the teen years, we've got depression, self-harming behaviour as well. And a lot of kids that have got, conflict in home with the families, separated families. We see a lot of children affected by this, and we help them with their how to cope.
So you're teaching those children, those adolescent children, on skills. So rather than say to be punching walls or whatever they might be doing, you're teaching them skills to relieve that pressure and
right. Adaptive ways to cope.
Yes.
Ways to handle stress and handle, you know, difficulties. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. I love working with you. And I'm sure I think the last stats I looked at is out of the 40,000 divorces that were finalised last year, there was something like 27,150 children as part of those 40,000 divorces, which, you know, it's a massive amount of kids out there that need love and support, and, you know, and thank you so much for being part of the team and helping us out.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Tanya.
Okay, well, thanks, Jessica. It's been so great to talk to you. And just for all of you again, yes, I'm Tanya Summerton, the Divorce Angel. If you are going through a divorce and would even just like a chat to find out and make sure that you're doing it the right way, please contact me on Facebook or Instagram, or on my website, www.tanyasummerton.com. So thanks again. Thanks, Jess. It was lovely to talk to you.
See you.
And we'll catch up again soon. Bye, everyone.